Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, ASEAN families. Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillahi wahda. والصلاة والسلام على من لا نبي بعده رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. So inshallah today's verse will be in Surah Baqarah, Surah number 2, verse number 80. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وقالوا لن تمسنا النار إلا أياما معدودة. And they say that the hellfire will not touch us except for a few days. قل أتخذتم عند الله عهدا فلن يخلف الله عهده. Say, have you taken an oath with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and that He will not go against His oath? أم تقولون على الله ما لا تعلمون. Or do you say upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that which you do not know? So, what happened was that in the Bani Israel during the time, the Jews during the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they had a belief, and their belief was that because the earth is only 7,000 years old, that means that when they do enter the hellfire, they're not going to be there for more than 7 days. So they believe that they will only be there for a few days, 7 days, not more than that, and that then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will take them out and they'll be all fine. Nothing will happen to them. So this verse is there to kind of dispel this and kind of expose this. Really, they're just making things up. But before we get into that, this is them having an unrealistic expectation with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, making an assumption with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And these things, if you were to take these false assumptions, or if you were to take unrealistic expectations, and if we were to put those in our lives, in our relationships, we already know what happens, right? If you have an unrealistic expectation of your spouse, of your parents, of your children, what happens to those relationships? They break, right? They don't last. It causes a lot of resentment, a lot of anger, frustration, and even leads to hatred. So when we have these types of emotion when it comes to expectations, why would we have it with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Right? So this is the question that we're being asked, that when we with our own relationship within our own lives, if we were to have these types of expectations or assumptions, none of them will last. So why have them with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? It doesn't make any sense. Even with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what happens if you do have, a lot of times people do that. People will assume that Allah is Ghafurur Rahim, Allah is all merciful, and we can do whatever it is that we want, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will forgive us, inshallah. And everything will be fine. They'll even go as far as say, Ana inda dhanni abdi bi, I am how my servant assumes me to be. And they think, I'll do whatever I want and inshallah Allah will forgive me. And we have these types of expectations. People, or even if we don't say it verbally, but the way we live our lives sometimes indicate that. So what's going to happen? Imagine going to a grocery store with the assumption that you have money, right? And you go there and you pile on your grocery cart, and you get to the checkout, and when they run your card, they realize you got nothing. It's empty. What's going to happen? You're going to have to leave, number one, empty-handed. Number two, humiliated. Right? You're going to be embarrassed. And this is what's going to happen on the Day of Judgment if we don't get our act straight. If we go and meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with the assumption that we don't have to live our life in this world as a true Muslim. We don't have to live our life in this world upon the sunnah of our Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. We can live however we want, as long as we think it's good, on our own assumptions, right? Then that's what's going to happen on Day of Judgment. We'll meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala empty-handed, humiliated, with nothing to show for ourselves. So although this verse is addressed to them, but there's a huge lesson for us, for as Muslims in this world, how we must conduct ourselves with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and how we must conduct ourselves with each other. May Allah protect us and save us from these false assumptions and these unrealistic expectations. They destroy marriages, destroy relationships between, parents and their children, between siblings. Almost every family you can think of, there's some sort of sibling rivalry or enmity or animosity where they don't talk for years and years on end. So may Allah protect us from that as well. Jazakallahu Khaira. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.